This is the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. Episode 63, recorded June 30th, 2016. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the official podcast of TV Enthusiast. This is the Weekly Set. I am your host and editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast. My name is Tyson Gifford, and joining me today, as always, is Big Bill Rowray.
Hello.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Peaky Blinders, our show club discussion, episode 2 of season 2, episode 8 of the series as a whole. We're also going to be talking about Brain Dead, episode 2, and the new trailer that came out for what is quickly looking like is going to be like our new favorite show, Stranger Things on Netflix.
Yes.
So let's start off right there on Stranger Things. Man, the first trailer was awesome. The second trailer just, like, I'm just so sold now. I mean, it's my background on my phone already.
Wow.
I already says my wallpaper. It's like, if this show disappoints, I'm going to be very sad.
Right.
Thankfully, it doesn't look like it's going to disappoint.
Doesn't look like
it's pretty great.
It looks like a fun 80s sci-fi thriller in the vein of, like, I don't know, it looks like Carrie meets the Goonies. I don't know how else to, like, describe it.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of that Stephen King darkness kind of going on there. And,
yeah, definitely.
And as a TV series rather than a movie, it looks like they're doing this kind of weird split. Like you're getting this one side of the story which is darker and focuses more on the parents. And then you have this other side of the story which is like, it's not necessarily that the story is lighter, but the presentation of the story is lighter because it's like an adventure for these.
Yeah, it's like an adventure for these kids. It's like there's two. Yeah, you're right. There's two sides. There's like a lot of Stephen King type elements in it, like psychic children and like evil, like creepy government, like labs or like conspiracies or something, you know. And then there's like then there's that Goonies side of it, which these kids banding together, going on an adventure.
Kids riding around a small town on bicycles.
Yeah, kids riding around a small town on bicycles. Yeah, like, I like, judging from the trailer, it seems like it's simultaneously focused on the adults and the children.
Like they got time. I mean, it's a TV series versus a movie, so they can kind of like sparse it out and cut back and forth, which is really, it just makes this kind of like perfect for people like us who, you know, we're like kind of children of the 80s. So we have that kind of, we remember these kind of movies in the 80s.
In the 80s, it's totally, you know, it wears its inspiration on its sleeve. It's a nostalgia trip, you know, to the times when, you know, like, you can make stuff like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that even made any sense, but
but in addition to
the
that side, there's the whole other side, which is that we're adults now, and we're getting the more kind of adult side of the story as well, which is like interesting because we didn't get that, you know, like in the Goonies, you didn't really cut back and see, you know, the parents freaking out that their kids are missing and stuff, you know, like it wasn't really about that. It was about the kids and their adventure, and you just kind of see them reconcile all of that at the end, like, oh, they meet up again and everything's fine. It's like, but you didn't get those like moments of dread dealing with like the parents about what was going on with their kids and stuff. And that's like what we seem to be getting here, is that we'll get this kind of this adventure with the kids, and then we cut and we're seeing things from like the parents' perspective. And as adults, we can relate to that now where we wouldn't have when we were kids. But then as, you know, children of the 80s, as people who grew up as kids with these kind of movies, we will automatically relate to the kids' part of the story as well.
Yeah. And so one of the things I love though, this is set in the 80s. It's designed to be like this sort of like homage to the 80s. It looks so genuinely 80s, authentically 80s. Like it looks authentic. It looks like I actually have vague memories of watching it when I was a child because that's how authentic it looks. It looks like Creep Show or something, you know? Like,
Yeah,
it
definitely.
it's amazing.
But at the same time, like, you know, of course it looks much cleaner than like the kind of what the film grade would have looked like then and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
It's not like film great. Yeah, it's not like that.
it's just like the settings and the way characters are dressed and everything like that is just very authentic. So yeah, it looks good. I am very excited for this series. As I said, I already got my phone decked out and a whole theme for Stranger Things. So if this does not deliver, I'll be very disappointed, but I don't really feel that much of a concern about that. I think this is going to go pretty well.
Yeah, I think this is going to go pretty well. I am optimistic. Netflix, it looks like another slam dunk for Netflix.
Yeah, this might be the most interesting series they've done yet. Outside of the Marvel thing, which is not one series, but
right.
But just in the sense that this is something like we've never really seen on TV before. Whereas, you know, like, the Marvel thing is different because it's like, wow, they're just going full Avengers style storytelling.
I love how, because of the way Netflix actually is, they have more room to do innovative stuff than like a network does, because networks can't really innovate, and they're actually loath to innovate because of the way they're set up, or the way Netflix is set up. They can do that.
Well, it's like this last season, every new network show is like follow the exact same formula. It's all take an interesting character, pair him up with a hot female detective for will they, won't they chemistry. They're gonna solve crimes.
Yeah, you would see Stranger Things on network. You know, not in this day and age.
Yeah,
you know, unless the kids were paired with a hot female detective.
Yeah. Every so often something amazing slips through the networks. I mean, Lost is a great example just because apparently the guy that greenlit it was basically knew he was losing his job.
Yeah.
I'm going to greenlight Lost then.
I always heard like how Lost happened was because like one of the network executives at ABC was just like, give me a show about people stranded on an island. That was literally it. Like, no idea.
I think there was some kind of like tax incentive thing going on with Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So they wanted to film something in Hawaii because a bunch of shows that filmed in Hawaii kind of started like around then, or like we're trying to start around then. So I think there was something having to do with that. And then there was like person saying, you know, I want something about a plane crash and survivors on an island.
Yeah, exactly. And Lost happened because like the network was basically like, we want something about survivors on an island. And
it's kind of like the 100 on the CW was like, we want something like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, we want something like the 100. and like they just like gave it to like J.J. Abrams or something, you know, and said, you know, just make this very vague idea, you know, and they just had the freedom to just take that idea and play with it.
But even after that, like the pilot was made, and then like ABC probably would not have picked up that pilot, except that the executive in charge of, you know, greenlighting it was basically losing his job and was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on my way out anyways, I'm gonna greenlight Lost. And he did, and the world is a better place because of it. But we rarely get stuff like that. Like in the past, you know, 10 years, I can think of Lost and, Hannibal. That's probably about it as far as like stuff that just feels very non-network, you know, but still made it somehow. But yeah, that's, Stranger Things. Looks like we're both really looking forward to it. That's coming out in, mid-July, I believe. Yeah, super psyched. Now let's talk about some stuff that we've seen beyond just the trailer of. So, Will, you finally got a chance to watch the second episode of Brain Dead. Your CBS overlords finally allowed you to watch it.
Yeah, shockingly so, yes.
So give me a little rundown about the events of episode 2 of Brain Dead.
So episode 2 of Brain Dead, this is more like an episode where I guess just plot things are happening. We're just moving the plot along. The biggest things that happen are that there's a guy in the park or something, and he's like playing chess Like
Okay,
multiple
so you
games.
are caught up with me, because that was the most recent episode.
Oh, that was season 1, episode 2.
I thought that was episode 3. I don't know. Oh, okay.
Okay,
So-
yeah, he's playing like multiple games of chess at once. There's this one guy, and he gets the bugs in his head, and they take him to do like a CAT scan. And during the CAT scan, his brain explodes, but he ends up with a sample of the brain matter, and he finds the bugs in there. And like he posts it like on this conspiracy theory way. It's really funny because it's like this conspiracy theory website. Like one of the headlines is like something like maple syrup conspiracy or something. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, and that's where our main character, Laurel, she sees like the pictures of the bugs. She also, like, earlier in the episode, she sees like the CT scans that they took because the scientist who was working on the meteor and whose head exploded in the first episode, like his wife comes to talk to her, and she's the one who shows her the CAT scans, shows her like all the bugs crawling around that guy's brain, and she's basically like, this is what happened to my husband. And meanwhile, the FBI is also investigating the death of that scientist. You know, so she gets visited by this FBI agent early in the episode. The rest of the episode is like, is the typical, you know, like the politics stuff.
Political maneuvering between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Between the Democrats and the Republicans, yeah, like her brother, the Democratic whip, you know, he's tasked with trying to get the majority back to the Democrats, or lose his position. He sets Laurel to find out, you know, he figures, okay, so they took one of their guys, but he took one of the Democrats, right? But one of the Republicans has to have been put out by that. So they just gotta find out who that is and win him over. Laurel thinks she gets a lead. They follow up on it. It turns out to be a trick. And needless to say, like, her brother's job is in danger now.
Yeah, and just those brain bugs are everywhere.
And those brain bugs are everywhere. So one interesting thing is, like, Scarlett, who her brother was having an affair with, she tries to get him into a position where the brain bugs can take him over by trying to seduce him, have sex with him. Only it's funny because now that she's that she's got these bugs in her head, she can't actually have sex with him. It repulses her. She like gags and stuff, and she makes like funny faces every time, and it just weirds him out. and instead of like keeping him there while the bugs like get inside of his head, he's just weirded out to the point where he just gets up and leaves, and that fails.
Yeah.
It's like, that's interesting.
We also got to see a bit of a reunion for our central character and some friends she had from college.
Yeah, some friend who is
clearly possessed.
Who's also clearly possessed. Yeah.
Who's gone all like right-wing nut job on her friends, even dropped like her genius grant or whatever. And
yeah, she dropped her genius grant and became like this right-wing nut job. Oh, and they all drink this wheat germ drink now.
Yeah.
Which they claim they got from some like health book.
Yeah.
It's another quirk like all the possessed people seem to share.
Yeah. That and the song.
That and the Cars song.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I still have no idea what the agenda is. The possessed people seem to go super hardcore into their party affiliation once they're possessed.
Either super right wing or super left wing.
Yeah, either super right wing or super left wing, which is another quirk to the possessed.
It's just weird, yeah. We have to figure out what the eventual motivation of all of this is, you know?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of these bugs? Why are they doing this?
Why are they doing this? Where is this headed, you know?
Yeah.
You see, that one senator there, the Republican for less, he was possessed, but it just seems like all he's doing is political maneuvering
Yeah.
And I just don't know what the agenda is still.
You went from being a person that just drinks and sleeps and doesn't care about his job to like being like all like super into it and all fitness active and
exactly. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, exactly.
So it continues to be a pretty funny show. I like it. Great characters.
Yeah, great characters.
I think without the hook, I don't know how much I would dig it, but
I don't think I would dig it without the hook, to be honest.
But it works with the hook. Like everything else that it's not like, oh, this is boring and now here comes the element attached to the bugs or something. It's like it all works in relation to it. It just has this weird tone that the whole series has because of this hook.
Yeah, the whole series has. And what about that opening like jingle now? You know, recapping the events of the first episode.
Yeah, it's like a musical.
Yeah, that musical. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I know.
It's starting to get almost to like Scream Queens, like where in like the first couple episodes of Scream Queens, it was so hard to nail down exactly what the tone of that show was because it was just like all over the place. Like it was like, oh, it's being a little bit kind of serious about it. No, now it's just like straight up parody. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it took a little while to kind of find its groove. So there's a little bit of that going on here. The only difference is that it feels like all of this somehow does fit together into its tone. Whereas with Scream Queens, it took into like the third episode, I think, before it really felt like they nailed the tone.
Yep, I think they nailed the tone here.
Yeah, that's Brain Dead. We're gonna continue watching that as long as Will has a means to. Yeah, as long as CBS allows. So let's move on to our main topic. So it's time for some Peaky Blinders Show Club. So this week we're talking about episode 2 of season 2, or episode 8 of the series proper. The kind of biggest element of this week isn't even necessarily in the story of the episode, but just in the casting, which is we finally get to see Tom Hardy, Bane himself.
Yes. Yeah, he also has like an odd like sounding voice in this episode when you first hear him talk. It's
he plays a Jewish gang leader, Alfie Solomons.
Yes. who runs a distillery.
Yeah.
And at first, you know, when you first meet him, he's referring to his distillery, and he's referring to like, well, he makes his bread.
Yeah. He's like, I make a brown bread and I make white bread. Which kind of bread would you like to try? So, basically we saw last week that Tommy was, trying to reach out to the Jewish gang, that are up against, Darby Sabini, in London. And Tommy wanted to get involved with the Jewish side of that conflict. But we didn't really, see anything come from that except that Sabini was pissed and the Jewish people kind of invited them to the table. And so this week we've got to see an actual conversation between, Alfie Solomon, who's, Tom Hardy's character, and, Thomas Shelby, played by the Scarecrow himself.
Yeah.
So
that was pretty intense actually, because like, especially because he was not open to that conversation the whole time. And he's like, well, you know, didn't you just like basically like join up with this other guy and like betray him? Yeah. It's like why should my answer immediately be to just shoot you?
It's a good point he's making.
Yeah, it's a good point he's making. He pulls out the gun and he aims it at like, you know, and he's like, you're like, oh shit, is he gonna do it? He's not gonna.
I should also mention that the actor who plays Darby Sabini, Sabini seems very much similar to the Billy Kimber character of last season. He's like very much in that vein, like that type of character.
Sabini reminds me so much of Billy Kimber. It's like,
but the actor who plays him is played Locke on Game of Thrones. The guy that Hodor ended up killing, that worked for he cut off Jaime's hand and he worked for the Boltons.
Oh, Oh, okay. He worked for the Boltons. Yeah, okay. God, I totally forgot, like, that character at all. So, yeah.
So, yeah, he died like 2 seasons ago. So,
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, so, wanted to point that out in our Game of Thrones actor involved in there. We also got a little bit more with, Winston Churchill in this episode with, the episode basically started with Tommy waking up. He's in like the hospital. He's all fucked up from, from the encounter of last week's episode that we discussed where, basically, Darby Sabini's like group, like just took a razor blade and was like cutting up the inside of his mouth and was beating him and he ended up being saved by Inspector Chester Campbell, and now we get to see like them kind of confronting each other. So it was kind of interesting when talking about Grace. Like
talking about Grace, that was a tense scene too. When Thomas Shelby was in the hospital, Inspector Campbell like visited him, and basically he told him, "I got my hook around you. You're mine." Mm-hmm. Yeah. Campbell is a man on a mission. Thomas ends up getting one over on Inspector Campbell because he makes an appeal to Winston Churchill that Winston Churchill like actually like takes him up on, you know, much to like Campbell's dismay. Yeah.
Churchill made a good point though, because Churchill was a military man and he made a point that, you know, despite his criminal activity, Tommy was like a ditch digger in World War I. That's like one of the most dangerous, horrific jobs that any soldier could take, digging the trenches. And, basically because of that, you know, the country still stands. They won World War I, you know, because of people like Tommy. So there's like this kind of, grudging respect that Churchill has for Tommy that, Chief Inspector Chester Campbell does not have, as somebody who did not serve. So this is coming back up again. This happened, last season where, Tommy was talking to Chief Inspector Chester Campbell, kind of putting him in his place by saying, like, you know, where were you when the war was going on? Did you serve? I served, you know? And now we kind of get like how this is such an influential aspect of the series of just like the idea of so many people served in that war and the people that didn't serve just do not have the same clout as those who did.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The people who, yeah, exactly. So he feels that Tommy, you know, he has a legitimate claim because he actually served in the war. He did serve an important function in the war. And Winston Churchill is a man who did serve, recognizes that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why he grants Thomas his request. Of course, he throws a line to Campbell where it's like, well, you know, it'll be temporary.
Yeah. It's getting to the point though, it's like, I think everyone's just kind of looking at Campbell as like this necessary evil that they don't really want around. Even Churchill seems to like just kind of not really like Campbell that much. But, yeah, so that's kind of what's going on there. Meanwhile, we pick up a little bit more on Polly's story, which we saw last week with her, going to a psychic because she had a vision that her daughter, had passed away.
Yes.
So that part of it turned out to be true. She had 2 children. They were taken away from her.
Thomas, actually looks into this. And yeah, he finds out, he confirms that her daughter is in fact dead.
But her son is still alive and he's in England.
Yeah.
So, Tommy ends up visiting the family. The mother that's taking care of this kid is like very, just does not want him involved at all with the Shelby family or anything. Has lied to the son about, the mother, about his birth mother and everything, to try to kind of cover that up. Tommy ends up visiting, sees the boy. The mother kind of in a panic is like trying to get, you know, them not to talk to each other, but Tommy ends up kind of passing off an address to him and, says that, you know, he could find his mother there if he wants to. Polly tries to get, after Tommy reports all of this to Polly's like basically pulls a gun on Tommy, is like, give me that address now. And Tommy's like, the very fact that you pulled a gun on me tells me you're not ready for this because you're going to create a situation that's going to escalate and you're going to just cause a huge problem because this mother is not going to let this kid go.
Right.
And
yeah.
if you're going to pull a gun on me, then who knows what the hell you're going to do to this woman.
Exactly.
And then
yeah. Yeah.
It's going to break loose.
That was a good point, and, she pulls that gun on Tommy, and it's like, and Tommy, he just sighs. He's like, you pulled the gun. That's exactly why I can't tell you. It's like, yeah, exactly. Because, who knows what's going to happen? She's, she is unhinged, it's to the extreme. And it's like, you just can't do that.
Yeah. And thankfully they didn't play on this whole thing of oh, is she gonna get the address some other way? What's she gonna do? They didn't really do that because in the same episode, it ends with, her son, going by the name Michael Gray.
Yeah.
Visits her, takes, the information that Tommy gave him and finds her.
Yeah, well, Tommy plants the seed,
Mm-hmm.
So Tommy plants the seed so that, basically, he gives her son the opportunity, the choice to say, if he wanted to seek her out and find her, he could. I think the way Tommy played it was probably the best way he could play it because, he couldn't have her go over there and meet her son because of the way she is.
Oh yeah, who knows what would have happened?
What happened? but he did plant the seed and sort of arrange it for her son to go and meet her.
Mm-hmm. So this is a new wrinkle to the Shelby family that we're going to have to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, a lot of real estate changed hands in this episode. Apparently, I think maybe as a money laundering effort in a way. Tommy has bought 2 pretty large properties. One in London, which he gave to Ada, his sister, to live in. I mean, huge houses. We're talking I think they said 5-bedroom or something. And then another one he gives to his Aunt Polly, as well as saying that, he's going to arrange to try to get her kids back. And having it as a place that she can go to and visit them. That's kind of a legitimate home that's away from all of their business.
Yeah.
So, So we got real estate changing hands. We got deals going on with the Jewish gangs. We got, Chief Inspector Campbell and his trying to find any way possible to get Tommy killed, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just trying to find any way possible to get Tommy killed, to get one over on Tommy. And it's no.
We got some Winston Churchill.
Yep.
And we had one more thing going on this episode, which was
Tommy's brother, just flying off the rails.
Yeah,
Arthur.
So he beat a man to death.
He beat a boy to death.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a man. It was still a child. He was like a teenager.
Yeah, he just couldn't control himself. He went to the war like Tommy did, John did as well. So the 3 eldest Shelby brothers all went to the war. They're all kind of damaged in their own ways. And it seems Arthur Jr. is the most damaged of all. He's a much more interesting and more 3-dimensional character this season than he was last season. Last season, he just seemed kind of like the fuck up older brother. And this season, you're kind of seeing more of how damaged he is. Beyond, it's not just, oh, he's just a fuck up. It's no, there's something wrong with him, psychologically messed up with this guy. And, he is avoiding going to the reopening of his bar. But Finn visits him, the youngest, Shelby brother.
Yeah, the youngest Shelby. He gives him some
he cokes
cocaine.
him up.
Yeah, he cokes him up. And that makes him feel good. That makes him feel so good. He goes to the bar and he has a grand old time. He's
screaming and
he's screaming. He's happy as shit. And it's it's
But all you can think when you watch all that is man, this guy is such a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, this guy, yeah, exactly. This guy is such a ticking time bomb.
Any second he could just go off the rails. It's kind of frightening.
If anything, the cocaine is just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you know people like this, but I've known people like this where it's they're just so close to the edge and they're manic. And even when they're happy, it's kind of terrifying. Because, at any moment, they could just, flip completely off the rails.
Right.
And,
at moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think, I've personally known anybody like that.
The people I've known that are like that aren't that extreme, but just like that kind of like that type where you're like, okay, this guy's a lot of fun to hang out with when he's drunk and happy, but like at any moment, this could go very wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of Arthur Shelby Jr.'s kind of role in the show. And is there anything else that happened in this episode? Trying to think of it. I think that's pretty much it, right?
That's pretty much it. There was Thomas did get a letter from Grace. He burned it.
That's true, yeah.
That happened. I think that's it.
She's supposed to be in New York now?
She's in New York now. I forgot where. Jesus.
She's living with you.
Yeah, she's living with me. We're married now.
Well, Tommy's just gonna have to deal with that shit.
Just deal with it, Tommy. She got a time machine.
she's in present day New York, you know. Tommy's gonna have to cope.
Yeah, no, so she's apparently in New York. She's apparently married now to some rich banker. Now she sends Tommy a letter. We never get to see what that says or what's going on with her because Tommy burns it without reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, don't you dare burn that. It's like, oh crap, now we'll never know. Thank you, Tommy.
Well, no, because I'm sure she's going to come back into play in this story. Like I said, they filmed the scene for her at the beginning of the episode, like a quick flashback scene. They've referenced her continuously in this episode and a little bit in the last episode. They're not like kind of passing the buck and moving on. So she's got to come back into play at some point.
Yeah, I'm expecting it. I mean, it'd be kind of weird if she didn't.
I mean, you could understand if she didn't, just because, like, they would, you know, maybe it's like a casting thing. The actress was involved with something else and wasn't able to do it. But they're playing it up too much that, like, they can't just, like, have nothing happen from it, you know? Something's gotta come. Grace still has a part in the story.
Right, exactly. That's what I think.
But yeah, that's Peaky Blinders, season 2, episode 2. We're going to be watching through this whole series, so we're already a little bit more than a third of the way through everything that's out so far. There's only 6 episodes per season, so 3 seasons out, that's 18 episodes. So we're 8 in, 10 to go. If you want to watch along with us, feel free. Just start binging on Netflix, get caught up, and watch right along with us. We watch 1 episode per week, and then we discuss it. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage